Okay, good morning, everyone. We are on the top of Tzadium and Aleph. The Mishnah says, Katan she'isiu aviv KESUVOS kayemes. So the case is where a Katan was married off by his father, and he did the ksuva and everything. There's only one problem. It's worthless because he's a Katan. So his wife has a ksuva. He's with a woman, he's living with the woman, he's a Katan. And the ksuva is worthless. However, if he now marries her when he becomes a gadol, i.e. he has bia with her one time once he's a gadol, so now the ksuva that was written when it was worthless when he was a katan, so that ksuva can now take effect when he's a gadol. Shalmenat kein kaima, because we assume that when he had the bia with her and he married her officially, so he wanted that ksuva to carry over. The ksuva that was an illegal ksuva now becomes a legal ksuva. Gershon isgari ishto imo ksuva kayames. For whatever reason, a ger, before he converts, his wife has a ksuva. It's not literally a ksuva. It's some type of arrangement as to what happens in the case of divorce. So that would go ahead and that would transfer over also when they both come and become Jews. Shalmenat kein kaima, because we assume again that when they became Jewish, so they wanted to transfer over the details of the ksuva. Amar of Huna lo shanu alamana. When we talk about the ksuva transferring over from a katan to a gadol, or from a non-Jew to a Jew, when we're talking about that ksuva transferring over, that's only the actual ksuva. But anything that's additional, the tosefes ksuva, the additional parts of the ksuva, that doesn't transfer over. Only the mane masayim, only the 200 for a besula, the 100 for an almana, that's what transfers over. Rabbi Yehuda mar afilo tosefes yeshlam. Rabbi Yehuda says no, even if there's other details in the ksuva, that also transfers when this person becomes Jewish, when this katan becomes a gadol. Meisvei, we have a shaila on Rabbi Yehuda, chitshu, no tell us matcha chitshu. We see that if the husband now, when he becomes a gadol, if he adds extra stipulations to the ksuva, then no tell us matcha chitshu, then those are the things that are added. Chitshu in lo chitshu lo. Only if he adds new stipulations do those take effect. But if there were original stipulations, if there was a tosefes ksuva, then those do not take effect, because only the actual ksuva transfers over, not the tosefes ksuva. Seems to be a problem with Rabbi Yehuda Ema, so we answer af masha chitshu. Rabbi Yehuda can answer that when it says in the Brisa that whatever was chitshu, she gets what chitshu. It means af masha chitshu. She gets a ksuva, she gets the original tosefes ksuva, and she gets additionally anything that he adds after they become a gadol. But we have another brisa that you can't argue that, because it says dafka chitshu notelas masha chitshu lo chitshu. If he doesn't make anything new, then you don't get the original tosefes ksuva. You only get the original ksuva. Besula gov masayim v'amana mana. So the Gemara says tiyufta to Rabbi Yehuda. You're right, tiyufta to Rabbi Yehuda, and we see that when a ger is nisgayer, when a katan becomes a gadol, then the original ksuva stays, but only the original ksuva stays, not any other tosefes ksuva that's included. Chitshu, if he adds new things now, so then that gets added to the original ksuva, but not the other details of the original ksuva, the tosefes ksuva as we call it. Rabbi Yehuda masnisan atite. So where did Rabbi Yehuda make a mistake? The Gemara is trying to explain. It's interesting. He doesn't always do this. The Gemara is going to explain, like, where did Rabbi Yehuda go wrong? Rabbi Yehuda made a mistake because our Mishnah says, Katan she'isiu aviv KESUVOS kayemes. The ksuva is kayemes. So what did he think? He thought the ksuva kayemes means the ksuva and the tosefes ksuva. Who savar KESUVOS kayemes? Akula milsa kaya. On the ksuva, on the tosefes ksuva. Velohi, it's not true. Ikar ksuva kai. It's only on the ikar ksuva that it stands. I just want to end, before we end the parak, what does that mean that a besula gova masayim? He's been living with her. He's a ger, he's been living with her. What does it mean, besula go masayim? So the Rishonim explain what that means is that, assuming she was a besula when they started living together, now when the ksuva gets transferred over, she still gets masayim, like a regular besula. It's only if she wasn't a besula at the time, if the 7-year-old married the 6-year-old and she was not a besula at the time that she was a 6-year-old, even though that marriage was chal, now when they transferred over, she only gets 100. But if the 7 and the 6-year-old, hopefully it was their first marriage, if it was their first marriage as 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds, so then when they become gedolim, 13 and 12, and now the ksuva transfers over, so it's not that she only gets 100 because of the fact that she's not a besula. Since when they started living together, even though it was nothing because they were katanim, they were just playing house, now when they become gedolim and the original ksuva without the tosefes ksuva, when the original ksuva gets transferred over into a new ksuva now, or that becomes the new ksuva for their marriage, as we're saying here, so that the ksuva remains at 200 because she was a besula at the beginning of the house, so now she becomes and she stays a besula for the purposes of the ksuva.
Why does the ger have to read?
I'm sorry, we finished the parak. No more questions on the parak. Yes.
Why does the ger not have to mekadesh his isha? First time he was Mekadesh.
So he probably does. No, he is. He's being Mekadesh just like the Katan's being Mekadesh the woman with Bia.
Oh, so he goes through Edom. He says, look,
No, they're going to do Kedushin. The only question is, do they need to redo the Ksuva? And the Gemara's Chiddush is that they don't need to redo the Ksuva. That the Ksuva can transfer over, even though they need to redo the Kedushin and the Nisuin, seemingly with Bia, since they're already living together. So we have to have a little bit of a background here. For those that remember, and for those that don't remember, so there is something called Banin Dichrin. Right? We know a regular case where a husband dies, so the wife gets to collect her Ksuva. If the wife dies first, and then the husband dies, so then anyway the children are going to collect the money. But what happens if there's two wives? So we know that there's a rabbinic enactment that when there are two wives, so when the husband ultimately dies, so each wife's kids get to collect that which their mother brought into the marriage. And remember, that was known as Banin Dichrin. That was known as the rule that the dowry will not be given by the grandfather if he knows that if this husband goes out and marries multiple wives, then the $1 million that he gave will be split up between all of the wives and all the children. And therefore, whatever assets the husband has on his own, whatever money he makes in business, whatever that stuff is, of course, that gets split up equally between all of the children. However, the enactment of Banin Dichrin is that whatever the wife brings into the marriage comes out of the marriage and doesn't just come out. Even if she dies, it goes to her kids and doesn't get split up between all the kids. That was Banin Dichrin. And the second rule when it came to Banin Dichrin is that takes place and that disbursement takes place, but it only takes place under one condition. If after they disperse the Banin Dichrin, that means just for argument's sake, if there are two wives and this one brought in $1 million and this one brought in $500,000, so these kids will get the $500,000, these kids will get the $1 million again, besides for whatever money he made that they'll split up equally. But let's say he only has $1,500,000. So then the Gemara told us that there's a little bit of a problem, because if they get their $1 million and they get their $500,000 from their mothers, then we uprooted the biblical requirement of having Yerusha. Because we said, the Gemara, if you remember, said there needs to be at least $1 left for them to split 50 cents and 50 cents, and that we fulfilled the biblical requirement of Yerusha, of inheritance from the father. Now, after the 50 cents and the 50 cents, we can give you your $1 million and you your $500,000. But if there's only left $1,500,000, or in most cases less than $1,500,000, if there's only left less or equal to exactly the amount of the Banin Dichrin, so then we can't give the Banin Dichrin, because if we give you the $1 million and you the $500,000 and now there's nothing left, so now we've fulfilled the rabbinic enactment to keep all of the money within the wife's family, but we have uprooted the biblical enactment in order to have a Yerusha, because there is no Yerusha here, because that Banin Dichrin is not considered a Yerusha in the biblical sense of the term. So just remember those two rules, that you keep what your mother got that she brought into her marriage, gets passed down to her generations. But the one exception is that if there's nothing else left, then we can't go ahead and fulfill that rabbinic obligation, because then we're going to uproot the biblical obligation of giving a Yerusha.
Well, what happens to that money of the...
Gets split up equally.
Oh, I see. That is.
Why don't you just give them
then it would be
$1 or something and then give the rest?
Because again, yeah, that's what they would argue, but the other people would argue, no, we need to go ahead and we need to fulfill the Yerusha. Yeah. So let's start the Mishnah. Somebody was married to two women and he died. Okay, so what happens? Harishona kodemes l'shniya v'yorshe harishona kodmin liyorshe shniya. Obviously, the one who he married first, she gets to collect her ksuva first, and the one who she married second gets to collect the ksuva second. Again, she came first. She was first in the pecking order. Now when they all come with their ksuvas, so depending on how much the ksuva is, if there's only a certain amount of money, so then they collect first, and then they collect afterwards. Obviously, we're dealing with a case where there's not enough money for both of them. If there's enough money for both of them, so then who cares who deals? You can argue who gets to get their money first, fine. But seemingly it's when there's not enough money, so then they get their full ksuva, and then whatever's left goes to the wife that he married second. And if the wives pass away, as Rashi says, at some point between when the husband dies and they get to collect the ksuva, so then the ksuva gets passed down to the yorshim, and the yorshim can come to BAYT and collect the ksuva. Nases harishona v'mesa. He married the first one and she dies. So that's a regular case. Where she dies, where does all the money go? To the husband. And only when he dies does that money get dispersed to the children. Nasa shniya v'meis hu. Now he marries the second woman and he dies. So what happens? Shniya v'yorshea kodmin liyorshea harishona. Interesting. So now each one of them is coming with a taina. Again, he marries a woman, she dies. He marries another woman and he dies. Now you have this woman coming to him with what? The second woman is coming with her ksuva. The first yorshim are coming with what? Not with the ksuva. The ksuva, there is no ksuva. The ksuva goes down the drain when she dies. So now everything goes to him. When she dies, or when he dies, now those kids want to collect what? their money, the banin dichrin, the money that was originally their mother's. So now you have a little bit of a problem. Now you have the ksuva of the first and the banin dichrin of the second. So who gets to collect first? So the people with the ksuva get to collect first, as Rashi explains and as we'll see, because that's a bal chov. That's money that he owes. That's not a Yerusha, that's a bal chov. That's if they're coming with a star that says, you borrowed money from us. That's what a ksuva is for all intents and purposes. So if they have the bal chov, they have the star that says, you owe us money, so they collect first. If the money is left, then they get to collect their banin dichrin. And the Gemara is going to discuss what happens if they collect their ksuva, and now there's $1 million left, and they're supposed to get $1.5 million. Can they collect even that million? Because what did we say? We said that in order to collect banin dichrin, there needs to be at least $1 left to split. Does the ksuva that the first people or the second wife collected, does that count? Does that fulfill the biblical obligation to give a Yerusha? And now can they collect their $1 million or their $1.5 million? Or does the ksuva, is that a separate dealing? And now when they want to collect their $1.5 million, there's no other money that the father has. If there's no other money, sorry sir, you can't collect your banim dichrin, and the 500,000 he has to get split up equally between all the kids. That's what the Gemara is going to tell. But just at the most pashul level, the Gemara is saying, he marries woman number 1, she dies. Marries woman number 2, he dies. Woman number 2 or her heirs come and collect the ksuva. Whatever's left, if there's left, so then it either gets split equally, or whatever's left, now woman number 1, her yorshim can come and collect their banin dichrin. Gemara, midiktani, just back to the first case now, where there were 2 wives, he dies, and now the 2 wives want their ksuva. Midiktani harishona kodemes l'shniya, from the fact that it says that the first one comes before the second one, velo kitani, and it doesn't say harishona yesh la v'ashniya ein la. It says the first one comes first. It doesn't say the first one collects and the second one doesn't collect. So the Gemara wants to make a diuk. Miklal di ikad mashniya v'tafsa lo mafkina mina. Even though the first one is supposed to collect first, if the second one comes and grabs her ksuva, i.e., obviously the case is that there's nothing left now for the first one. If there was something left, okay, she grabbed it very nice, she did something wrong, but okay, now you just take this. But if she takes the only money that the husband has, even though it rightfully belonged to the first wife, the Gemara is making a diuk from the words that since she does have a claim, she also is a bal chov. She has a piece of paper that says that he owes her the ksuva. She did what she shouldn't have done, but lemaiseh, she got her ksuva. Now the Gemara, the Rishonim ask, how did she do that? I mean, what does that mean? So either she just did it, but we can also explain that they didn't have Facebook, as we always say. They didn't have the internet, believe it or not. So when they went to Beis Din, when she went to Beis Din with the ksuva, so what did Beis Din know? Beis Din didn't have track necessarily of how many wives this guy had. So when they went with a ksuva and a death certificate, so Beis Din didn't do anything wrong by giving the shniya the money, because Lamaisa, husband died, we see the husband dies, we see you have a ksuva, let's go take from his estate. They didn't know necessarily, again, one suggestion, they didn't know necessarily that there was another wife who he had married first, who's really supposed to collect the money before this wife. So it's either a mistake, obviously, either they didn't even know, they might not have even known about it. We can assume that they knew that the husband had another wife, but they might not even known about it. But Lamaisa, either way, if the second one grabs based on the diuk in the Mishnah, then we don't take it away.
What happens if the first one now comes to BAYT with the shtar?
So there's no money left.
There's no money left.
That's it.
She can't.
So that's what it means.
She can't extract it from the first.
So the Gemara is going to mention, but seemingly not. Miklal di ikad mashniya v'tafsa lo mafkinim. That's the whole chiddush. Or else, what's the chiddush? Again, if the second one's grabbed first and there's still money left, so then what's the chiddush of the Mishnah? Very nice. So we just had a little bit of a delay. You had to wait a few days. Okay. But the point is that the chiddush seems to be that even though they're not going to be able to collect, we don't take it away from the second one.
Are you talking about metaltalin and talking about kesef?
So there's a discussion here. Well, metaltalin and kesef would be the same. The question of metaltalin versus land. So Rashi seems to learn land, but we're just going to not get into it because the other Rishonim learned that it's metaltalin, even movable property. So seemingly we're talking about anything. Movable land. Miklal di kad mashniya v'totzalam mafkina mina. Shma mina, what do we learn from here? Baal chov me'uchar shekadim agav. Again, what are they both considered? L'maisa, when they both have ksuvas, they're both considered to be baal chovs. They both be considered to be people who borrowed money or who lent money to the husband, quote unquote. That's what a ksuva is for all intents and purposes. And now we're coming to collect what you owe us. So now we see from here, we can learn that if we're going to give it to the second one and not take it away from the second one, what do we learn? That if two people come and one's supposed to collect first and the other one comes and grabs it, so what do? We don't take it away from the second one, as we see here. That's what the Gemara says. Shmamina b'achov me'uchar shekadam v'gava, ma shegava gava. That's what the Gemara suggests. Now the Gemara is going to suggest the opposite. Maybe say that when the second guy grabs it, when the second Yorshim or the second wife grabs it, we don't let her keep it. Umay kodemes. So what does it mean? Because the Gemara proved Harishona kodemes, it comes first, but doesn't mean the second one doesn't get it. If the second one grabs it, then the second one keeps it. The Gemara says no. What does it mean? Umay kodemes legamri kodetani. That the first one comes first, and even if the second one grabs it, kodemes means you get it and only you get it first. Kidanan, as we see, ben kodem labas. We don't see the word. It proves that kodem doesn't just necessarily mean it goes first, but if the other one takes it, then they get to keep it. We see that by Yerusha, ben kodem labas. And even if the bas would grab it, kodem means comes first and gets it, even if the second one grabs it. So that's what the Gemara is saying. The other side, the flip side of the coin, is that maybe you can't prove from here from the words, and maybe in fact if the second wife takes her ksuva first, then the first wife would be able to take it away from her. Ikadamre. We have another way to learn this. Midaloktani. Again, just a different way of learning. The Gemara says, where it didn't say im kad mashniya v'taf say matziyah miyada, the Gemara is making a diuk. Since it didn't say the following quote, if the second one goes and takes it, we don't take it away from her. Miklal di kad mashniya v'taf so mafkida mina. That implies, since it doesn't say that if she takes it, we don't take it away from her, that implies that if she takes it, we do take it away from her. Shma mina balchov muchar shekadim v'gava. We learn from here that if a balchov comes and takes it, masha gava lo gava, then what they take is not collected, and we have to take it away from him. La'olam, the Gemara says no. Eimalacha masha gava gava. The Gemara says no. Whatever the second one takes, again, they're just arguing both sides of the coin. We don't know what they're gonna. It doesn't come to a maskana. La'olam eimalacha, you could argue masha gava gava. How are you gonna answer the fact that if what she takes she gets to keep, then it should have said im kad mashniya v'tatza ein motziin biyada. No, I did a ton. Since in the second case it says shniya v'yorshea kodmin liyorshe rishon. In the second case it needed to say that the second one comes first because l'maisa the second one is coming with the ksuva and the first one is coming with bun and different. Top of the page. Tananami harishona kodemet lishniya. But again, the Gemara comes out that we don't really know l'maisa what the din is. You can make the yukim of the Mishnah both ways. That the first one definitely is zocha to get the ksuva first. But what happens if the second one does something that they shouldn't do, or again maybe they didn't even know what they were doing wrong? They didn't know there was another wife. Hopefully they do. But if they didn't know there was another wife, or they just went and they did it when they shouldn't have done it, it's unclear from the Gemara whether the first wife can make the second wife give back the money, or whether the second wife gets to keep it, even though it was rightfully the first wife's. Second case, so that was the first case. Again, where he had two wives, he dies, both want to collect the ksuva. The one who was married first gets her ksuva first, the one who was married second gets ksuva second, and the whole question was, what happens if the one who wasn't rightfully due the money, the second one grabs the money, and the Gemara comes out without answering that question. Now the question is the second case. You have a man who's married to a woman, the woman dies, all of her money goes to her husband, but again, the sons of that woman still have their eye on that money, and they're waiting for when the husband will die, and they'll get their $1 million that their mother brought into the marriage. But now he goes out and he marries a new woman, and then he dies. So the Gemara says the new woman and her Yeroshim get to collect their ksuva first. Whatever is left, if anything is left, so then the first wives Yeroshim get their ban and dichrin, get the money that the mother brought into the marriage. So now the Gemara is going to say Shma mina tlas. We learn three things from this case. Shma mina achas bechayav achas b'moso. This is how we're going to refer to this case from now on. Achas bechayav, i.e., one died while he was alive, the first woman. Ve'achas b'moso, and then he predeceased the second one, the second wife. Again, because if he outlived both of them, then you're back to the first case, where you have two women who died while the husband was alive. So now you have achas b'chayav achas b'moso. That's how we're going to refer to this case from now on. Yeshlan ksuvas ban and dichrin. We give the ban and dichrin to the first wife's kids. V'lo chayshinan li insuye. We're not worried about fighting. Rashi explains very interestingly again. When you have the two wives who both die before the husband, so now when the husband dies, I understand that each one come with their taina. I want my mother's stuff, and I want my mother's stuff, and assuming there's enough money for all of them, there's going to be no fighting. You get your $1 million that your mother brought in, you get your $500,000 that the mother brought in, and we split the rest of the money equally. Fine. The question is, and the Gemara seems to be saying and suggesting, but we're going to reject in a second, the Gemara seems to be suggesting that maybe in this case it should be a little bit different. Maybe this whole rabbinic enactment of ban and dichrin, of getting what your mother brought into the marriage, maybe it shouldn't apply in this case. Maybe it should only apply where both wives predeceased the husband. But maybe where one wife predeceased the husband, and now there's one wife left when the husband dies, maybe in that case, the first woman, her family should not be able to get the ban and dichrin. Because it's going to cause arguments. Because now what's going to happen? Now they're going to come, and they're going to come with their ksuva. They're going to come with their ban and dichrin, and they're going to say, what right do you have to get your ban and dichrin? Lamaisa, we're balchov, we're all in the same parsha now, we're all collecting at the same time. At the end of the day, Lamaisa, since our mother, quote unquote, outlived your mother. Well, obviously she outlived her because he didn't marry her till afterwards. Again, I'm just trying to simplify it a little bit. So they're all going to come now. They're going to come with their ksuva. They're going to want their ban and dichrin. Maybe in this case it's going to lead to too much arguing, and therefore we're not going to give the ban and dichrin. We're just going to give the ksuva and split the rest equally. The Gemara is going to reject it because I see this for the way we originally said it. It makes more sense. Just like when they both predeceased, so they split it, and you get your million, you get 500,000. So seemingly the pshat should be that even though yes, there's a ksuva now. Okay, in a chanami, we need to pay your ksuva first for the second wife. But after we pay your ksuva, so then why should we not pay the ban and dichrin to the number one should get their million and you should get your 500,000? But at this point, the Gemara seems to imply that maybe there'll be some extra fighting since Lamaisa, the second wife, is still alive, and only in the case where they both predeceased the husband will we make the ban and dichrin. But in the case where one wife is still alive when he dies, so maybe in that case we won't have the din of ban and dichrin.
I'm not clear. Did he get married and write a ksuva the second time based on the money from his ex-wife?
No, he wrote a regular ksuva. No.
No, I'm saying, is that money, did he ever have that money? Or he said,
What do you mean he got the money?
$1 million because I know I have money from my first wife.
The million, the way I was giving the example is that the million belonged to the first wife, and the second wife he was just giving.
When he wrote the ksuva,
one second, but he's only giving her $200. No, the first wife and second wife, we're assuming the Pasha is only giving $200,000. When I'm talking about the $1,500,000, that's the money that the wife is bringing in.
That money
No. The first wife brought in $1 million. When she died, it went to him. Now he has $1 million. Second marriage, he pledged $200. She brought in $500,000. Now the question is, when he dies, so what happens? So ban and dichrin says your $1 million goes to your Yorshim, and your 500,000 goes to your Yorshim, and whatever money the husband had beforehand. Obviously, you each get your $200 for the ksuva. Whatever money your husband had beforehand, now we go and split it up equally between all of the children.
So there's no tosefta that he put on.
We're not talking about tosefta here. No, you're confusing last parak and this parak. That's why we're Hadran Alach. We're not talking about toseftas anymore. Now we're in the new. Now we're in the Mimai. So the Gemara is going to try to make a diak. Where would we see that maybe when it's not the case where both wives predeceased, but maybe where it's a case where one wife is still living now when the husband dies, that you would not say ban and dichrin and the first family would not get their $1 million. Mimai. Mi diktani shnia v'yorshea kod min liyorshe rishona. From the fact that it says that the second one goes ahead. I'm sorry. It means we don't care about any fighting that might happen. And Lamaisa, the first wife's kids get their $1 million after the second wife gets her ksuva. Mimai, where do we see this? Because it says, Miditani, Shnia v'yorshea kodmin liyorshe rishona, that the second one comes first, i.e. the second one gets to collect her ksuva first, because again, it's a Baal Chov, as opposed to a Yerusha. This is considered to be a Yerusha, because again, the husband got the $1 million. Now, they want the Yerusha from the husband to come to them, the $1 million that the mother brought to the marriage. Mikdam hu dekadmi. We see the second ones come first. Ha'ika shakli. It doesn't mean that the first ones don't collect. The second ones come first. The wife collects her ksuva. But now, if there's leftover $1 million, then the first ones get to be Yoresh, that money, even though their mother predeceased and the second wife is still living. We're not concerned about this fighting, and we keep the regular svara of ban and dichrin, and the first ones, Yorshim, get their ban and dichrin. That's the first thing that we learn. Ushmami, the second thing we learn from here is ksuva nases mosa lechaverta. Very interesting. The second thing we learn is, as I mentioned, you need to go ahead and you need to have $1 left over. So the Gemara is learning from here that what happened? So the second wife came and brought her ksuva. So they paid her ksuva. Now there's only $1 million left. And the Gemara is learning that what the Gemara here is telling us, the Mishnah is telling us, is that $1 million, if it was due to these people, ban and dichrin, so they get the $1 million. He has no money left. The Gemara says that just like we said that if there's $1 left, they split it 50-50. When he paid the ksuva, or when his estate paid the ksuva to the second wife, that was fulfilling the biblical obligation of having a Yerusha. And now, even though there won't be even $1 left after this first wife's kids get their ban and dichrin, since by paying the ksuva, which again, the second wife is getting her ksuva first, that's what we keep saying. By paying the ksuva, they fulfilled, by paying the ksuva, even though it's an interesting chiddush, because it's a Baal Chov, it's really coming as a loan. But since it's a Baal Chov, by paying the ksuva, the Gemara is learning from here, that fulfills the biblical obligation of Yerusha, and now we can give the full $1 million to them, even though there won't be even 1 penny left to do, because we already fulfilled the biblical obligation of Yerusha. Once we do that, we said there's no problem with giving the ban and dichrin.
But how could that be Yerusha? She's alive, right? The mother of the second kid. So
again, that's the
Yerusha is that.
So that's the chiddush. The chiddush is that the ksuva that she's collecting fulfills the biblical obligation of a Yerusha. Look at Rashi. Ksuva nases moser lechaverta. It's like the equivalent of the second line in the Gemara. It's hard to understand. Don't get me wrong. I'm not minimizing it. DAF agav de lo tikun ksuvas ban and dichron elim ken yesh moser al shtei ksuvas dinar. Delome ikra nachla deoraisa kitinan beperkinu parshinan time of beperk narash and nitpatasa. Like we said, you have to have $1 left. Hani mili kimesu shtein bechayev. That's the first case where they both died while he was still alive. Ditarvayu asu b'toras baninducha. Now everybody's coming and saying, I want my mother's money, I want my mother's money. There we said you have to have $1 to split in the Yerusha first. Aval achas bechayev ve'achas b'moso she'ashniya nigves b'toras chov. Now that the second one is coming and getting her ksuva with a chov, ein lecha Yerusha gedula mizu. It's still a Yerusha. The husband's dead. So it's considered to be fulfilling the Yerusha you're getting from the husband's property. Again, the husband, you only collect the ksuva after the husband dies here. So since he dies, Rashi's explaining, the Gemara is saying there's no greater Yerusha than that. It's not what the Gemara had in mind when it had the case where both wives die first, and now when they split, it meant that the children should be yoresh 50 cents each before they could grab their mother's money. But if you think about it, says the Gemara and says Rashi, Lamaisa, when she collects the ksuva, that is also a Yerusha. It's not the Yerusha in the classic sense that we think that the kids are going to collect money from the father. It's still a Yerusha in the sense that she's being Yoresh. Yes, it's a document, it's a Balchov, she gets to go first because it's like a loan. But Lamaisa, when you want to sit down and analyze it in your head and try to figure it out, Lamaisa, bottom line is, it's a Yerusha also. We treat it as a Balchov, that she gets to come first, but it's Lamaisa, Yerusha in the sense that she's getting something from the dead husband's estate, and she's collecting the ksuva from there. Ein lecha Yerusha gedula mizu, v'lo mi'akra nachla deoraisa, and therefore it doesn't uproot the nachla deoraisa, as he explains, and therefore, even if there will be no money left, and again, we don't have to say that it's only them getting. He has $1,500,000 left besides for the ksuva. Happens to be he has $1,500,200, $1,500,200. So she comes, she collects the $200. That $200, the chiddush of the Gemara is that fulfills the biblical obligation of Yerusha. Now you can get your $1 million, you get your $500,000, and as they say, Shalom al Yisrael. So the chiddush here is that the ksuva can serve as that $1, as that 50 cents, as whatever that penny is that needs to fulfill the biblical obligation. Mimai, where do we see this? Midilo kitani, because it doesn't say in the Mishnah, it doesn't say that the second one collects the ksuva and now the first one can get their banin dichron if there's still $1 left, which implies that once the second one collects her ksuva, then that fulfills the obligation, the biblical obligation. Ushma minan, the third thing we learn, which we're not going to really get into today, is Ushma mina ksuva's banin dichron lo tarfa mimishubadi. And we learn from here also that when they come and they collect the banin dichron, they come, and this again touches upon what you mentioned before. When they come and they collect their mother's estate, they don't collect from stuff that the husband had sold off, from mishubadim. They only collect if he has $1 million in the bank. If he has cash, $1 million, that's what they get. They don't get to start collecting land and land that he sold off and stuff. How do we see that? Because if you think that you collect from land that he sold off, then what's going to happen? Second ones will come with the ksuva and collect the ksuva. Now the first ones will come and say, okay, give us our banin dichron, $1 million. We don't have the $1 million. Okay, no problem. We'll go and collect the land that you just gave to the second wife for the ksuva. We'll go ahead and we'll collect it. Because again, banin dichron collects from mishubadim. The Gemara says, since we don't say that, and they get to keep, clearly the Gemara is saying she collects her ksuva and she keeps it. So clearly the fact that the first one, the kids can't collect from the second wife, shows that the banin dichron, the $1 million that they're waiting to come to them, that's only collected from Ital, it's collected from cash, it's collected from movement properties. It's not collected from any properties that the husband gave to the second wife, or from any properties that he sold to anybody else.
Even if you say ksuva is Yerusha, the other side's not getting anything here.
What do you mean?
There's no Yerusha on the other side.
For which side?
So one side gets the ksuva.
The second wife gets the ksuva.
So we said that's like Yerusha.
Right.
Yerusha is fulfilled from the Torah.
Right.
But the other side would get the
banin dichron.
But they didn't get Yerusha. Yerusha from the Torah.
Again, it doesn't matter. It sounds like there just needs to be a Yerusha from the husband, from the father. I'm also oversimplifying the case. In many cases, it's going to be, well, it might not be $1,500,000, but in many cases, she brought in $50 to the marriage, she brought in $100 to the marriage, so you get your $200 for the ksuva, you get your $100 that the wife brought in, you get your $50 to the wife, and now there's still plenty of money left. What does that money go? That money all gets split up equally as a Yerusha.
There's no shaila.
Then there's no shaila. Right. But the point is that I was just pointing out that the case is that even in a case where it's exactly the $1 million, the $500,000, and $200 left for the ksuva, once they collect that ksuva, that fulfills the biblical obligation, and the rest is all rabbinic. But in a Hanami. In most cases, you're not going to have to worry about the ksuva fulfilling the biblical obligation, because in most cases, even though it's not true, you don't know how much money a guy left over, but if the guy left over more money than in a Hanami, we don't worry about the ksuva. The case is where, many cases actually, where the husband didn't leave over enough, the wives, especially when you have two wives, and they brought all the money, and he did whatever he did with it. Now when he dies, there's not enough money left, so the ksuva needs to get paid. Once the ksuva is paid, so again, it would be an interesting shaila, not for now, but when we say that she brought in $1 million and she brought in $500,000, so does that mean now that if there's not enough to pay the banidruchen, do we give them 2/3 of what's remaining and then 1/3 of what's remaining, or half, or again, that's a separate question. But that's what the Gemara is talking about over here. Okay. BAYT there. Maskifla Ravashi. So Ravashi now is going to ask a shaila on the first chiddush that we gave. Mimai. Where do you see this? Again, what was the first chiddush that we brought? That in the case of achas b'chaya v'achas b'moso, so we still give the banin dichrin to the kids of the first wife, and we don't assume that there's going to be some type of fighting, and that we would only do banin dichrin when both wives die before the husband. Mimai, where do you see this? Dilma la'olam e'melacha achas b'chaya v'achas b'moso ein lehen ksuvas banin dichrin. Maybe ein achanami. In this case, so the kids of the first wife would not collect banin dichrin because the second wife is still alive, and it's going to cause too much fighting. Umay kodmin. So again, because what did the Gemara say? The Gemara proved on top that it says Shnia v'Yorshea Kodmin liYorshe Rishona, they're first, but that the first ones also get to collect. Mikdam hu dekadme ha'ika shakli. That's what we said in the beginning. So the Gemara, so now Rav Ashi needs to say Umay Kodmin. What does it mean first? L'nachla kitani. It means l'nachla Rashi. Lo sheyitlu harishonim achareihem ksuvas iman. They don't collect their ksuvas iman. El yitlu achareihem chelkam b'mosar kederech chokei Yerusha. It doesn't mean that they're Kodmin. All it means is that you said the second ones are Kodmin, and then the first ones collect their banan dichrin. No, it means the second ones are Kodmin for the ksuva, and then the first ones collect, like everybody else, their piece in the Yerusha. But they don't necessarily get to collect their banan dichrin. So he's arguing on the chiddush that we said. If that's true, that the second ones collect, according to the way you're saying Maskif La Ravashi, the second ones collect their ksuva, and now the rest get split equally. So what are you calling the sons or the daughters of the first one? Why are you calling them Yorshim Rishonim? They're regular Yorshim like everybody else. We're only going to call them Yorshe Rishonim if they're going to collect the banin dichrin. But if they're regular Yorshim, then just call the second ones collect their ksuva, and now all of the Yorshim split everything equally. V'chitema Yorshe Rishona Lamali. So it says in Achanami, he didn't have to call them Yorshe Rishonim, but he needed to call the second ones Yorshe Shniim. Because again, we're assuming the wife is collecting the ksuva, but if she dies, then her yorshim get to collect the ksuva as well. I did the tana shniya v'yorsheha, tananami liyorshe harishonim. Chanami, since the first ones are not collecting the banin dichrin according to Rav Ashi, it didn't have to call them yorshe rishonim. It could have just called them yorshim. That's him arguing on the first chiddush. Second chiddush arguing, you on top, which said the chiddush is that when the second wife collects her ksuva, that fulfills the biblical obligation of having a yerusha, and now the banin dichrin, even if it means all of the money can go to the first wife's kids, and you don't need to have $1 left over. You're making an assumption that in our case there was no extra $1 left over. You're assuming that we prove from here that the ksuva can work as the moser dinar because Lamaisa we see that the first ones get their banin dichrin. What do you mean? The Gemara didn't tell us, but Lamaisa the Mishnah meant that the reason that the second one, that the kids of the first can collect their banin dichrin is not because the ksuva served as the biblical thing. It's because Lamaisa after giving the ksuva and after giving the $1 million, there was still a penny left to split. That's what he argues. Fine. So now he's not going to talk about the third shmami with the mishubadim. So now the Gemara basically has the two chidushim that we say banin dichrin even in this case where wife dies, husband marries a new wife, and then the husband dies, so they collect their ksuva, but lamaisa the banin dichrin still applies over here. And the second chidush is that the ksuva itself can be the moser dinar, that could be the biblical obligation to give a yerusha, and therefore they can get the $1 million that's owed to them even if there will be not even 1 penny left. So now the Gemara says, ve'achas b'chayev ve'achas b'moso tonight. Again, it keeps calling this case achas b'chayev ve'achas b'moso. This whole idea about whether the first group of Yorshim can collect their banin dichrin in this case is actually a machlokas tonight. The Tanya mesu achas b'chayev ve'achas b'moso. This is going to be quick. Ben nanas omer yicholin b'nei harishona lomar leb'nei hashniya b'ni balas chov atem. Ben Nana says like the chiddush that what? The B'nai HaRishona, these guys can say to the B'nai HaShniya, take your mother's ksuva. We agree you collect the ksuva first. That's a Baal Chov. But now get out of here. Collect your ksuva, and we're going to get the rest of the money because of the Banin Dichrin, which seemingly applies at what? Banin Dichrin applies even in this case. However, Rabbi Akiva Omer, no. Kfar kafsa nachla mi lifnei b'nei harishona v'nafla lifnei b'nei hashniya. No, that once this husband remarried the second wife, and now he dies before the second wife, I agree with you. If she would die first, then there's no fighting, everybody gets the Banin Dichrin. But since he dies before the second wife, the first kids in the Yorshim lost their Banin Dichrin, and now the second wife collects her ksuva, and the rest of it gets split equally. It just uses the lashon nafla lifnei b'nei shniya. It doesn't mean that all their money goes to the shniya. It basically means the money that the mother brought in gets split up equally between all of the things. So he argues, says like Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi says like Rabbi Akiva, and Ben Nana says like the Chiddush of the Tanakama. My lav b'haka miflagi. So the Gemara is going to set it up. Are they not arguing Ben Nanas and Rabbi Akiva like Rav Ashi and the Rabbanan, the way I explained it? That Ben Nanas says that there's still been Banin Dichrin in this case, like the Tanakama. Umar Savar Rabbi Akiva says like Rav Ashi, that in this case there is no Banin Dichrin because the second wife is still alive. It's going to cause problems. Amarabba Ashka Chisnu the Rabbanan de Beirav de Yosef Kambre. No. Everybody agrees that even in this case, the Yorshim of the first one get their Banin Dichrin. So who do we need to explain now? We need to explain Rabbi Akiva. So what's Rabbi Akiva talking about? What's Rav Ashi talking about when they come and they say that the second ones can collect their ksuva and the first ones can't collect? What exactly is going on? What they're arguing about, and the reason that Rabbi Akiva says that in this case the first ones can't collect their Banin Dichrin is not because the first ones can't collect their Banin Dichrin in a case like this. It's because Lamaisa, in this case, there's no money left, and Rabbi Akiva holds like the Manda Amar, again, not like the second Chiddush, Rabbi Akiva holds that the ksuva itself cannot fulfill the biblical obligation. Rav Ashi, the Tanakama has his two chidushim working hand in hand, which is nice, because now they're working hand in hand with each other. Interesting. So what do we have here? Again, we want to suggest that the machlokas between the Tanakama and Rabbi Akiva, between Nanas and Rabbi Akiva, was Rabbi Akiva holds that in a case like this, there is no Banin Dichrin. We throw that out and say no. Even Rabbi Akiva holds that there's Banin Dichrin. If there's Banin Dichrin, so then what's the problem? The second ones bring their ksuva, we pay them, and now the first ones should be able to collect their Banin Dichrin, their $1,000,000. Why are you saying the first ones can't collect their $1,000,000? So we're going to establish it that because Rabbi Akiva holds that there is Banin Dichrin, he agrees, but he argues on the second Chiddush. Again, we thought originally he's arguing on the first Chiddush, saying nobody's arguing on the first Chiddush. There is Banin Dichrin even in a case like this. Rabbi Akiva is arguing on the second Chiddush that the ksuva payment to the second wife can fulfill the biblical obligation. And therefore, if it doesn't fulfill the biblical obligation according to Rabbi Akiva, and now they want to collect their $1,000,000, but there's only $1,000,000 left, or there's not even $1,000,000 left, so now they got their ksuva, but now Rabbi Akiva says we don't give them the Banin Dichrin because one of the requirements of Banin Dichrin is that there's $1 left to split, and since in this case there won't be $1 left, and we don't consider the ksuva, like you were saying originally, we don't consider the ksuva, even though I explained the opposite. We don't consider the ksuba to fulfill the biblical obligation. So now Rabbi Akiva says, in that case, they don't collect their Banin Dichrin. But in a Chanami, Rabbi Akiva would agree that if there was $1 left over afterwards, so then they get their ksuba, they get their $1,000,000, they get their $500,000, and now when we split the dollar into 50 cents and 50 cents, that fulfilled the biblical obligation. So when Rabbi Akiva is arguing, he's dafka arguing when there's not enough money to split after the ksuba, there's not enough money to give the Banin Dichrin and still have a Yerusha Deraisa. Since the ksuba payment to the second wife did not fulfill the biblical obligation to have Yerusha, therefore when they go ahead now and they want to collect their $1,000,000, I'm sorry, we really want to give you. I do believe in Banin Dichrin even in a case like this, says Rabbi Akiva. Lamaisa, I'm stuck because there is no money to split and do the biblical. What about the ksuva? The ksuva I hold does not count for the biblical obligation, and therefore, sorry, you can't give you your $1,000,000. And seemingly, again, to simplify it, that $1,000,000 would have to get split up by all of the Yorshim.
So it's Banin Dichrin to both sides, right? First, and then the dollar.
Banin Dichrin to both sides, and then the dollar. Again, I was simplifying it, but yeah, in this case, the Banin Dichrin would have to go for both sides and. But again, so the Tanakama will tell you no problems. When she collected her ksuva, that fulfilled the biblical obligation. Whatever's left would seemingly go first to this side, because they would collect first, seemingly, their Banin Dichrin would go first, and then if they get their $1,000,000, they get their $500,000. That's all that was left. Perfect. When she collected her ksuva, we fulfill the biblical obligation of having a Yerusha. So that's how the Gemara explains it now. Now the Gemara says, V'amina lehu ana. And I'm going to say to you, B'bal chov kulei ama lo pligi dehave mosar. Ki pligi b'ksuva. Wow, and now we have another chiddush. When Rabbi Akiva says, the way that we're learning now, when Rabbi Akiva says that the ksuva will not fulfill the biblical obligation of Yerusha, even Rabbi Akiva agrees that if there was another Baal Chov who comes and he also collects $200, so even though the ksuva doesn't fulfill the rabbinical obligation or the biblical obligation of Yerusha, if there's, let's say again, he said when the woman comes to the ksuva and they pay the $200 and now there's not enough money, I'm sorry, what do you want us to do? If they pay the $200 to the woman, Rabbi Akiva says that doesn't fulfill the biblical obligation. But if another Baal Chov from the street comes and says your father owed us $200 and they give him $200, that fulfills the biblical obligation and now they could do the ban and dichron. Wow, why? Says Rashi, 10 lines up, B'bal chov kulei ama lo pligi dehave mosar. You see the Rashi, last one on the line, ho'il. Ho'il, it's a good svara. This is where the Gemara cup is beautiful. Ho'il v'hashtar yotzei al kulam. When he's coming with the star, this outside party, it's coming on all of the yorshim and the wife and all the kids. Nimtzu kulam porim, they're all paying from the father's estate. V'hi nachala shelahem she'asu behen mitzvahs priyas chov aviyam. By paying the chov of their father, that's as if they all partook in this biblical obligation of Yerusha, and therefore it's considered as if they partook. It's a very interesting chiddush. Ki pligi b'ksuva be'achas b'chaya be'achas b'mosar shashniya chov hi pligi benan esavar reizav kishar chov b'havei mosar v'bekiva savar lav kishar chov dami kevan de'inu gufayu kashakle. Since she herself, it's like staying in the family, which is interesting. Since she, the wife, is collecting the money, that's shtar chov, that's not considered to be fulfilling the deoraisa obligation, and only if an outside party comes, then it's as if they all partook in the obligation of the father to give out the Yerusha, and therefore now the ban and dichron. But again, Rabbi Akiva will agree that if there's leftover money, everybody agrees that we do ban and dichron. The only shaila is everyone agrees that if a Baal Chov comes, as we explained, if a Baal Chov comes and collects $200, that fulfills the biblical obligation. Now they all get ban and dichron. Just Rabbi Akiva is coming and saying if it's dafka, there's just enough money for the ban and dichron, and the ksuva itself cannot fulfill the obligation of the Torah.
Does he consider the ksuva chov then?
Well, he's obviously considering it a chov because he's agreeing that the second ones can come ahead and think, but it's not a strong enough.
A regular bachov and a ksuva.
Right, so that's what he's explaining here. He's saying since choel v'ashtar yotzei kulam nimsam kulam porin v'hinachla shelahen, they're all giving it together. She'as ben mitzvahs priyas chovim by paying their father's chov. But again, ki pligi b'ksuva, it's very hard to understand. I'm not lessening that fact. Be'achas b'chai v'achas mosar shashniya chov hi pligi benan esavar harezo k'shar chov avei motar kiva esavar lav k'shar chov dami kevan de'inhu gufayu kashakle. That's the key words in Rashi. Since she herself is collecting this ksuva, v'hilka chanach b'nei shniya mekablin v'lo porin. The b'nei shniya are not paying anything out from the father. Since the b'nei shniya, again, since they themselves are coming, either her or her kids are coming and collecting the ksuva, mekablin velo porin, they're collecting and they're not paying anything out. When a Baal Chov from the outside comes, so everyone collectively is paying from the father's property, from the father's estate to an outside party. Here, when she's coming and she's collecting, yes, the first kids are paying to the second one, because again, it's part of their money going, but the second one are not paying anything because it's going into their own pocket.
That's the new one.
Nimsa she'ein ka nachla deoraisa. See, Rashi explains it beautifully. Again, you could still argue, like, okay, therefore what? But the way Rashi is explaining is that since they're basically taking it from their right pocket and putting it in their left pocket, they're not partaking. It's only half of the Yerusha, it's only half of the estate partaking in a Yerusha by paying the Baal Chov. If they pay a Baal Chov, then they're all partaking, that's fine. That fulfills the biblical obligation. Since when she collects a ksuva, yes, it's a Baal Chov, but since it's going basically to money that they themselves and the second wife and her family are not contributing anything because they're just taking, so therefore it's not considered to be the same as an outside Baal Chov. Let's just finish up here. Maskeflo Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, if this is true, that Rabbi Akiva agrees that Banin Dichrin exists, it just doesn't exist here by the Ksuva. Ihachi Rabbi Akiva Omer Kfar Kafsa Nafla. When Rabbi Akiva says that the first ones don't collect because the Nachla jumped over to the second one, Im Yesh Mosar Dina Mibayale. What's he getting into this whole discussion about jumping over and not jumping over? All he should say is that the first ones don't get to collect unless there's a Mosar Dinar. Because that's the whole problem here, is that the ksuva doesn't count, and therefore there needs to be a Mosar Dinar. Elamar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says no. He throws out everything we just explained and wasted all this time on. Not chas v'shalom, wasted time. V'achas b'chaya v'achas b'moso kamiflagi. He says no. They're arguing even about the actual din. That means we took it for granted. Rabbi Akiva holds that in this case they do get the banan dichron. It's just a din of whether there's mosar or not. The fact that Rabbi Akiva doesn't come along and say as long as there's mosar then they can get it, that shows that really Rabbi Akiva is arguing on the basis of the din itself. And Rabbi Akiva says that in this case they would not collect the banan dichron even if there's mosar, because Lamaisa it's going to lead to fighting because the second wife is still alive. We have a similar machlokas here. Detanya, Nases Harishona Vamesa, Nases Ashnia Vamesu, Ba Bain Banea Shazula Achar Misa Venolden Ksuvas Iman. So the baneh of this one can come along and collect the ksuvas iman. Reb Shimon Omer, Im Yesh Mosar Dinar Elu Notlin Ksuvas Iman Ve'elu Notlin Ksuvas Iman Ve'im Lav Cholkin B'Shaveh. If there's a Mosar Dinar, then they can each collect their ksuva. But if not, they're chokin b'shavah. Let's just see Rashi. Elamar of Yosef, Kideprishis Bereisha, Dafilu Hava ba Mosar, Asra Bekiva Lamemar, Dahoil ve'achas b'moso leka ksuvas banin dichrin lebnei rishona, ve'kol shekain kileka. When there's no Mosar, of course they don't get anything. But even if there's Mosar, the first ones don't get. What's the case here? So Nasas Arishona Vamesa, Nasas Ashnia Vamesu, that's the case. So Rashi says, Ba'im Banea Shelzu, Kasalka Daitach Abene Shnia Kai. We're talking about the second banim. V'hachi Kamar, Ba'im B'nei Hashnia Shibalas Chov, the second ones come with the ksuva, V'nolin Ksuvas Iman, Aval B'nei Rishona Ein Kan Ksuva. So this seems to be Rabbi Akiva, that when this case happens, the second ones come la'achar misa, or the wife herself comes after the husband dies and collect the ksuva, and they get the ksuva, but who doesn't get anything? The first ones, because there is no banan dichron in this case. Comes along Rabbi Shimon ve'omer, im yesh mosar dinar, as long as there's a mosar dinar, because again, you still need a Mosar Dinar. He might say that the Ksuva itself counts as a Mosar Dinar. But as long as there's a Mosar Dinar, then what? Elu nolin Ksuvas Iman, they collect the Ksuva. Ve'elu, the first one's nolin Ksuvas Iman, which is what? Which is the Banan Dichrin. Perfect. V'im lav chokim b'shaveh. But again, if there is no Mosar Dinar, so then everybody agrees, whether you hold that Ksuva counts or not. But Lamaisa, if there's no Mosar Dinar, even with the Ksuva, if there's no money for the Ksuva, so then Lamaisa, there is no Banan Dichrin. So the Gemara tries to set it up the way we're trying to set it up. Is it not the Mar Savar Achas B'Chayiv Achas Mosho Yesha and Ksuvas Banin Dichrin Umar Savar Achas B'Chayiv Achas Mosho Ein Lehem Banin Dichrin, and therefore Rabbi Akiva holds like the Tanakama in this Brisa, and the Tanakama by us holds like Rabbi Shimon. The Gemara says, no, we're throwing out everything the way I just explained it again. No. No, they say that everybody agrees, even Rabbi Akiva holds, that you get the banin dichron, even in this case. What's the whole discussion here? So the whole discussion is, again, the way we explained it was whether the ksuba counts or not. But over here, what's the discussion? So the Gemara says no. Over here, it's a different discussion. What's the machloges here? Why over here then does it say Bain Baneha Shelzu that the second one get their ksuba and seemingly the first one doesn't get it? We just said everybody gets their banin dichrin. So either one can explain the brisa saying that there is no Mosar Dinar, but that's what Rabbi Shimon says. The Gemara is explaining no. V'hacha b'dinar mikarkai kamiflagi. Mar savar mikarkai in mitaltale lo, umar savar afilu mitaltale. Says Rashi, bedinar mekarke kamiflagi, iba'ina nahu mosar sheyehesham shtei ktuvos, v'dinar mikarkos. Do you need this dinar to be from karka? V'hacha b'delekar moser dinar ela mitaltale. Over here, there's only an extra $1. The question is, does that extra $1, the mosar that you need to split, does that need to be dafka land? And again, the Gemara is going to get into a whole discussion here. Or can that extra $1 actually be a dollar bill? Amar Tanakama de Ein B'nei Harishona Notlin. The Tanakama holds that in this case, where there's only metaltalin, there's only $1 bill. So in that case, $1 bill does not fulfill the Mosar dinar. If it doesn't fulfill the Mosar dinar, then what? Then they collect their ksuva. And if there's only $1 bill here, then what? Then we can't give them, or there's only $1 million bills here, we can't give them the $1 million because one of the biblical obligation, the actual biblical obligation is to split a piece of land, even a tiny piece of land, in two.
Otherwise, you're not fulfilling Yerusha.
Well, otherwise you're not filling the Yerusha. Umar Savar v'as Rabbi Shimon l'meimar hoel v'yesh mosar dinar kol dehu shakli. And that's how you read it now into the Bryce.